Once you were home, did you miss anything from your deployment?
I miss the new friends I made in Bahrain and taking in the new culture.
My new Afghan brothers.
I miss the feeling of actively doing something that in some way advanced the human race.
No, I don't miss anything. I just want life to be normal.
I miss combat. Not getting shot at, but camaraderie, brotherhood. The day in, day out, knowing that that guy next to you will be there, that he's got your back. Knowing that the team meant everything. You can't get that anywhere else. Not with a classmate, not with a football team. Not like that.
I miss the camaraderie of being with my guys. You spend every day the better half of a year with 92 men and you begin to miss them. Men that made you laugh and cry. Men that would go through hell and back, not only with you, but for you. Men that you may have nothing in common with other than you're sharing the same hellish situation, but for some reason, none of that matters. You begin to love them like they were your brother. I don't think anyone except a soldier that's seen combat can understand that.
How is your perspective different now than when you first came home?
I think my perspective on people is much different. Not only how Americans are, but also other cultures. The respect for life that we have as Americans is by far much greater than much of the rest of the world. I've tried to understand and accept our differences, but when you see women bought and traded like cattle, it's hard to understand the legitimacy of it. A father comes to you, brings you his 8-year-old daughter, and she's badly burned. But then after she's all healed and treated, you bring her back to return her. He says, no, she's scarred and I'm used to him. It's situations like these that I play over and over in my mind and I try to understand. I've always tried to fight off prejudices. Growing up, there were racial prejudices, and I always shied away from them. Although it always intrigued me how my uncles hated the Japanese. They were World War II veterans, and they always had a comment about the Japs this and the Japs that. The Vietnam veterans felt the same about the Vietnamese. It always puzzled me how they could write off an entire race or ethnic group like that. What could have happened that made them so angry? War. I fight it every day, and in most circumstances, Muslims as a religion don't bother me. But when I see one, especially one that looks of Arab descent, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. Funny thing, since I'm half Lebanese, born and raised a Catholic, I guess, in short, I can't understand why my uncles hated the Japanese so much back then.
How were you welcomed home by your community?
The unfortunate thing about coming home back then was they weren't as celebratory as they are now.
Everyone had their questions and gave a smile and a wave, but no one really acted any differently than if I'd just come home from a vacation.
They were very welcoming and proud to have us home. As one of the largest and most combat-centered units in the Marine Corps, my unit was considered to be well-respected, and that was evident by the masses that showed up to cheer us on.
The military bases and surrounding community are great, but our hometowns, they're less aware, unless it's Veterans Day or Memorial Day.
We lived on a military base, so the homecoming ceremony and community reception was wonderful. I attribute this in a large part to the Vietnam veterans. They really got the raw end of the deal when they came home from Vietnam. They have taught us as a nation how to separate the men and women who fight our wars from the politicians who make the policies. Firsthand, I showed coming down the tarmac at Fort Drum was the Vietnam veterans. He gave me and my men something that he never had, and I thank him for that every chance I get.
I came home to a loving family and a settled environment that supported me. But I deal with veterans every day that are not so lucky. Traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder, veterans whose cognitive skills were taken from them. Simple decisions that we take for granted are life or death decisions for these young veterans. And as much as they want to get better, the story just plays over and over in their head. They need us as much as we needed them.
Did you lose anyone over there? How did it feel coming home without them?
Luckily, where I was in Bahrain, it was a relatively safe place. The Air Force doesn't have too many casualties when compared to other branches fighting on the front lines.
The unit we supported took several casualties, and I knew a few of them indirectly. I think the bigger impact was knowing the guys that knew them and seeing how much of a toll it took on them. I still think about this one kid that didn't make it back. He was killed in his sleep, and a lot of people blamed themselves for his death. It almost tore apart the unit.
When we hear of any military member dying, we say a small prayer to ourselves and move on with life and the mission.
My response becomes more robotic with each recitation. We lost many good men. Those men were brave and decent enough to die serving powers greater than themselves. It's never a good feeling to lose anyone in such a tragic manner, but practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Out of my high school class, 38, 28 were lost.
My worst fear ever was to lose someone. My promise was that everyone would come home okay. All 100 of the guys I was responsible for. The year was up, but only 20 were injured, shrapnel and such, but they lived, continued to fight. Then we had to go back for those extra 5 months. And I lost one only weeks before coming home. The job was done, we were headed home, and then this. I've been back to visit his grave in Ohio 4 times since he died in '06. And I check in with his family all the time. I talk to his brothers on the phone. I will have a responsibility to check in with them until they order me to stop calling or until the day I die.
Company, attention, present arms.
Where amid these you journey with the tolling bells perpetual clang. Here, coffin that slowly passes, I give you my sprig of lilac.
Detail, fall out.
Left face. Forward march. Column left march. Column left march. Left, right, left, right.
But you have to ask yourself, is war over when a soldier comes home? It's not. They can say they're okay, but they're not. I don't think a soldier really ever comes home.
So, we've chosen to do it without a curtain call at the end, as it normally in the theater we'd have another show about to happen and the lights would have come back on, but we're all back there and the lights couldn't come back on.